Be husband-minded, be wife-minded. You'll be wondering what that means. Well, I call it husband-mindedness or wife-mindedness, but what it actually means to me is when you're looking for a partner, you have to be intentional about what you're looking for. You have to have that in your mind. Let's take for an example. You want to buy a car, or before you wanted to buy a car, let's say you didn't want to buy a car. You're just normal. You don't have the money for a car. You're just chill and you're good with walking and taking buses and all that. You don't want a car. Every day you go out, you see nice cars, but you don't notice them because what? You are not actually trying to buy a car. You're so focused on maybe something else is a priority. Buying a car is not a priority for you, so it doesn't come to mind. You see the nicest of cars on the way, but it's not a big deal. Like it doesn't bother you. You see, all kinds of fancy cars. You don't even notice any detail. Like they're like, oh yeah, that's a car. It just passed. It doesn't bother you. But the moment you say, I want to buy a car, the moment you say, I think I have enough money now to buy a car, I want to buy a car, or even somebody who has a fleet of cars but suddenly wants to buy a new one, something changes. And what is that? The moment you go out this time around, you begin to notice every small detail in every car that passes by. You begin to notice every little, like the smallest of details of every car that drives by. Let's say you see a Lamborghini and you're like, it has a nice wheel. You say it has a nice steering. You say something like, I like the shape. I like the aesthetics. I like the inside aesthetics, the interior. You start noticing a bunch of things about cars that you weren't even noticing before. Like you were seeing the same cars, but suddenly you're paying more attention to like small details, of all these cars. Even your friend that used to drop you off from work before, when it was prior to wanting to buy a car, you never looked at this car more than, nice car. You just, you just get in the car, he'll drop you off, life goes on. But the moment you want to buy a car, while on your way, you keep telling him about, I like the way the AC, cools. I like the way the car drives really fast. Whenever you march on the throttle, it moves really fast. I like that. You've started noticing small details. You start spending a lot of time on YouTube, searching about cars and everything. Where am I going with this? This same procedure applies when you're looking for a husband or you're looking for a wife. When you're looking for a husband or a wife, you have to be husband-minded or wife-minded. We tend to, whenever we're looking for other things, we are cool. We allow ourselves to, do all the search, the YouTubing and everything. But once it comes to looking for a partner, there's this shame that is associated with, actually making effort to know what we want. Because when you're trying to buy a car, you are making a lot of effort to know what you want in your car. But once it comes to finding a partner, there's this shame that is attached to, trying to know what you want, like, thinking about it, having it in your mind, praying about it, just looking like somebody that actually wants it. We're normally advised to be nonchalant about it, that the good things come when you're not looking. But honestly, I think that is just a matter of luck. For some people, good things happen when they're not looking, and some people, good things happen when they're looking. But the funny thing about the people who good things come to when they're not looking, some of them, because they were not looking, when the good thing came, they don't appreciate it. And then that good thing ends up leaving, and then they're like, oh shit, they start realizing what they missed out on. This is not the case for everybody, but this is the case for a few people. So if you look at it on the grand scheme of things, it means that actually looking out for that good thing is better than being nonchalant. Because being nonchalant, yes, some people have survived it, but most haven't. So it makes sense to be husband-minded or wife-minded when you're looking for a partner. When you're looking for a partner, you start thinking about it. When you wake up in the morning, you're praying about it. When you step your foot outside, you see people who are potential partners. You look at them with the idea that you have in your head. You don't look at them as common boyfriends or girlfriends anymore. You start looking at them as long-term partners. So that the moment you do that, you're able to filter the good from the bad. Because I know what I want in a woman. When I see a woman I don't want, I immediately know. And I don't have to waste my time or her time, because the moment I see her, I know she's not the one. Or I know we can't go far with this, So that is what being husband-minded does for you, or being wife-minded. When you see your partner, because you have been thinking about it, because you have been praying about it, because you have been analyzing it, because you have thought about what you actually want in your partner. And the same thing applies with friendships. I know this is not about friendship, but it applies to friendships. What do you want in your friend? What kind of friends are you looking for? If you're looking for friends, look for friends. Don't be nonchalant about it. Yes, being nonchalant you can still get through with it and get some good friends. But when you are intentional about the kind of friends you want, you bring the exact kind of friends that you actually want into your life, and that way you avoid all the possibilities of meeting the wrong people, because you are very intentional about who you want in your life. So be husband-minded, be wife-minded. That helps you just know what you want in life, so that you don't end up wasting your time on things that don't matter. You don't end up spending most of your life in relationships that you could have avoided if you knew what you wanted from the onset. All right, thank you so much for watching my video. I'll see you in another video. Peace.